So I'd like to welcome all of you. Thanks for coming. And today we are going to discuss the commonalities and the juxtapositioning of the work and temperament of these artists. We have here Kathryn Myers and Gopika Nath. And Georgina Maddox is going to take us through the talk. And the talk is titled Time Loose Ends. So Georgina, just to introduce her very briefly, Georgina is an art critic and a curator whose works have been published in many magazines. And she also works as a freelancer for art, culture, lifestyle and travel. Georgina has a regular column in Time Out and currently the Hindu business line Sunday magazine Bling. Her writing has been published in India Today, Harper's Bazaar, Man's World and Elle magazine. She's also been part of creating text for books and weblog of India's largest public art project, the Mumbai International Airport, spearheaded by Rajiv Sethi of the Asian Art Foundation. So we welcome all of you. Thank you.
So when I first walked into the gallery, I was a little taken aback because I found the works to be, speaking in different directions. In that sense that, Kathryn's work is very restrained, very draws you in but doesn't give you the whole story in the first glance. Neither does Gopika, but in the sense that she's been much more candid with the video and the child project. So I asked them, I said, how does the work come together? And they had some very interesting things to say.
Well, I've been coming to India since 1999, but because I come back and forth with a suitcase all the time, I always found it challenging to try to exhibit my work in India anywhere. And so it wasn't only until I felt like I created a base here that I could leave things and come back and forth with more regularity that I was interested in showing in a commercial gallery, also because I've known the scene for such a long time. And just through so many of my connections in India are completely serendipitous and accidental. So it's through an Indian artist, Ebenezer Singh, from South India, through Boston, living in New York, who put me into a show in Connecticut that I didn't realize was actually coming to New Delhi. And I happened to be in New Delhi in January when it came, and I met Anshul, and then I told her I was coming back in the summer, and if she was interested in my work, that I would be here, and I was sort of interested in finding a place to show in a commercial gallery, because I've shown sort of alternative spaces, and she responded to my work. And then I had known Gopika for a long time, since 2009, because of our relationship with the Fulbright, and I thought it would be nice to share the space with someone whose work was compatible. And I just finished photographing Gopika's work because I was doing a video on her for my video series regarding India. And there's something about picking up the work and holding it and seeing it very up close. And I just loved things about her work that my work is not. I've always tried to make my work more abstract, but I just can't. I'm an eyeball realist. And but I really love art that's minimal and abstract. And her work has this wonderful range from the very specific to the very completely experiential and abstract, and I love that sense of the wholeness from a distance, and when you get up close, all these intricate little lines. And so there were things that are about my own work too that I related to. So I responded to her work for what about my work it wasn't that I wished my work could be, but it's not, and also things that I connect with in my own work. And of course the sense of scale. That when you're in art school, you're always being told, make it big. If it's not big, it's not good, it's not important. And it matches the size of your ego when you're a young artist. And so when I came to India, I started responding to the small scale of the miniature, which I think a lot of artists, Western artists, do when they come to India. And that one-on-one relationship, and the fact that you have to get in front of it and to really look at it and connect with it.
When Kathryn asked me to join her in this show, I didn't even need to think twice. I'd seen Kathryn's work in a couple of earlier shows, and I love the fact that she works small. I've always been told, "Bada karo na, bada karo na," and I can't do it big. And so I like the fact that she does it on a small scale, and sometimes my work looks bigger than hers. And what I like about Kathryn's work is that it draws me into its details. She's a very skilled artist, and in contemporary art particularly, you find a lot of measuring of skill. People don't want to show their skill. They want to be sort of so, more expressive, and I like that too. But she's very discreetly conceptual. She doesn't put it in your face, and those are very refreshing things for the kind of times we live in, where we are so caught up in wanting to just say everything and sort of be larger than life. So I like that, and I think that's what makes our work compatible, is that neither imposes on the other nor interferes. You have a dialogue with them completely independent of each other. And if you don't make a connection, I don't think it bothers you. That only will be 26. I work as a designer. My training is as a designer. And in the early 80s, I wanted to go to the slave school. I was studying in London, and I wanted to go to slave school. And at that time, your tutor had to fill out the form. And my teacher at the John Cass School of Art, where I was doing my foundation, she positively refused to sign my form. She said, "You're a born designer, and I'm not filling this form." So I was a bit taken aback, because I wanted to be an artist. Some part of me, I love the design part. So Chelsea said, but that was always the back of my head. And gradually, as I worked as a designer, and my disappointments and successes, or whatever you want to call them, through a long, I think, almost 2-decade journey as a textile designer, I started working with craftspeople. I worked with the corporates, I worked with designers, I worked across the stream. And then I became a craftsperson myself, and then I used to paint sarees. And I always find that people would don't want to pay me for it. I was like, keep my time along. And I say, you know what, time? It's taken me 25 years to learn to do it like this. So those were things that used to play in my head, that nobody considers this an art. And parallel to this, my work with the craftspeople. And I thought that if I can't get value for this, I'm articulate, I'm privileged, I'm all those things, I've had the education, I can speak about my work, I can stand up for myself, how are they going to get any value? And through the course of working with them, it just dawned on me that if there's anything that I could do, it was to be an artist craftsperson and sort of bring in a craft into a haloed white cube, as it were, and talk about it as art.
And Kathryn, your work is taking off from a very sort of classical discipline in that sense, academic discipline. How do you break that down and reach this phase?
I've always been interested in and excited by things that I see. But for me, photography, even though sometimes my source materials come from photographs, I don't get anything out of the creative process of photography. My best friend in school was a photo major, and I knew the difference between someone who was passionate about that. And I always worked from life, but at a certain point that wasn't able to happen because I was making gigantic paintings inside an abandoned mill building in Connecticut, and I couldn't paint inside that space. And so I had to start to work from photographic references, and I found that actually freed me, because when I worked from these elaborate still lifes that I would set up, or models that I would hire to come to my studio, I felt locked into what I saw. But ironically and unexpectedly, when I worked from photographic sources, which was difficult at first because the photo was essentially flat, I felt a sense of freedom to translate that or depart from the source material. And so I had kind of made a transition from working on very large-scale, life-size, figurative paintings based on Catholic stories from my background and inspired by Caravaggio. And I was sort of at the end of that body of work in about 1999 when I first came to India, and I didn't know what I was going to do. It's always a frightening period when you have lost the sense of excitement about something that you've been doing for years and you're known for. I exhibited that work a lot. And so little by little, I tried to kind of refocus my sense of narrative and observational interest in different spaces and architecture of India. And so you see the work on the left, it's an older body of work. I was still interested in narrative and the figure in a space in which you're not sure what's happening. There are ambiguous settings, and the figures the spaces you'll never find any of these spaces anywhere. They're usually always put together, cobbled together from imagery, my imagination, observation, and things that just happen when you're working on the surface of the painting. And I think also I had like a little kind of revelation one day that for so many years coming to India, it was about me being in this place, looking at the other doing their thing in India. And I've been coming to India long enough, and I realized I belong here. It's my place. I belong here as much as anybody else does. And so there was a sense of feeling that, and also that I felt trapped by the narrative. And I love architecture. If I wasn't an artist, I would have been an architectural historian. And I have a fondness for surface and texture and color and all the things that are about abstraction that come together in these sort of realistic paintings. But they also come from a long tradition of American realism.
You also told me about how you rework the surface.
Yeah, I mean, it's a process of layering. It's opaque watercolor, but it's used in a way that's very transparent. So there are layers and layers and layers of colors put together. And so I feel like my painting process almost mimics what happens over time with the building process. That's really about paint. But and painters would recognize that, but people who aren't painters sometimes don't realize that the paintings are more about paint than they are about the image that the paint brings together.
I want to say something about Kathryn's work. If you look at the work, you probably think they are photographs and they're taking some of photographs, but actually very subtly she superimposed images from various different places, and it looks like a scene, but it's actually the scene of our imagination.
It isn't one particular location.
It isn't one particular location.
Some of them are closer. There's some that are more closely based on one particular location, but most of them are, I get confused. And when I go to Ahmedabad, where I spend a lot of time, sometimes I stop and I think I found my painting, but it's never quite my painting. I mean, the one that's right back there is a combination of New Delhi and Varanasi and Goa. And sometimes I get completely lost and I have no idea where I am.
I just find that gender does play a role in what you have access to, how you're expressing, where your narrative is going. So maybe I'm just throwing a question open to you. Does gender play a role in your works, and to what extent?
One thing that was said about Sajid Sekander's work when she came from Pakistan to study at RISD and was doing these exquisite small miniature paintings, one of her male American students said, "You're making girly paintings," because they were small. And so going through art school, it was I went through school in the 80s, but it still was sort of remnants in the 60s, and so it was a very kind of a macho art scene, and you had to make sort of big paintings. When you made something small, that was girly art. And so again, I had to come to India to realize things that were sort of taboo within my own art construct, the decorative, the use of color, and at a certain point, realism also became very unfashionable as well. I was sort of we had segregated studios at the University of Wisconsin, the realists and then the abstractionists, and we would have very big debates and fights with each other as well. And so certainly the scale would have been identified as a feminine type of scale, which is no longer the case. But since I grew up kind of during women's liberation, we tried, if anything, to sort of deny feminine characteristics in our work.
When you talked about women artists, I just remember that, embroidery, sewing is considered, especially from the Victorian perspective, a very feminine activity. But at this point in time, I become very interested in the fact that men in India especially always did the embroidery. Kantha or the Banjaras, or it was Fulkari, it was all done by the women. And it was the men who did the karikar. They were the karikars who sat and worked on the addas in the karkhana. Fashion design houses are finding that it's harder and harder to get men to come into the embroidery. They are now going to work in factories. Unfortunately, craft is not a very well-paid profession. So men are going out to work in factories. They're packaging, they're checkers, they're doing all that kind of a job. And it's the women who are now coming into the factories to work as karkhana. So there is a certain gender shift in that sense. As far as my art is concerned, I am a woman and I do embroidery, and I don't care if you think it's feminine or not feminine. It's just me.
Yes.
How do you respond to this kind of natural spilling of the curls? And how do you respond to the chai kathak? Because I know some artists of the early modern period also use tea stain as a stain on the tussar cloth, silk, to have a kind of background, and they allowed it to spill over. I know some of artists who did that. So, and sometimes it creates a sort of joy in your mind, like you have planned it, but it comes up wonderfully well. And then I remember your Facebook post where you said that I tried a bit of jump, and that was really amazing. So, That's where actually I put myself, and I wanted to know how do you respond to this kind of natural evolution of colors.
I started off with chai ke dark, and so the color was very naturally chai gets the brown and all these things. And I would add my little here and there. There is so much going on in the texture, in the burning, in the cutting, in the tearing, in the pulling, and even putting my hair out there. So I didn't see any restraint in color. I don't know, after I was saying, I see that the palette is very restrained. I think it's very interesting in that you don't really have to do very much. They do their own thing. With the chai ka dal, what I was doing was I was collecting the tea leaves every morning, change the size, add more tea leaves, put some more fabric on top, put different kinds of fabric, and then put it in the oven for about an hour, half an hour, depending on what. Sometimes it would burn, sometimes it wouldn't. And I would just love whatever was happening.
Yeah, that's what actually.
And I just let whatever happen, happen. And while we were doing that, Manfa got very excited about this. In the house we're doing, although he's been working with me for the last 23 years, he's been through my entire design phase with me. So he said, "Acha, gudka ka dal lagate hain, haldi ka dal lagate hain." One day I woke up in the morning and he'd done his whole thing with haldi ka dal. So haldi, gudka, the thing is jamun ke dal. So okay, let's try jamun. Jamun dal means it washes out.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
But when you travel, like she said to me, that if I was living in America, I probably wouldn't have painted that much. It's the fact that I traveled and I went out that I painted much more.
It's also, when you're away from home, you have kind of
Dissociation.
a heightened connection with a place because you're not in your everyday life. And it's, I think, and I'm entranced by architecture in the southern United States. I've developed this incredible fondness for the concrete boxes just because of the way they mutate and the weird geometries, in the sense that things shouldn't make sense, but they somehow make sense. And how that they're a canvas for all this color and texture. That's really weather related. It's because of the climate that the buildings look the way they look, and have a sense of patina of color and texture because it's monsoon rains and everything that creates that I wouldn't find in New England, for instance.
You sing while you work.
I see my life.
Yes, but I can feel that too. That's what you know, the music and the sound.
If I'm not singing, I'm listening to music or something.
Yeah, because that's very evident in your work. So,
It's the kind of work that generates that.
yes.
That's why I make the video, because I do sing while I work.
Yeah.
And one of the
A lot of embroiderers actually they all sing
Yes,
together
that
and they
is
have
also
the chant
true.
and they sing
Yes.
and so that's what I was
even the Fulkari and the Kanta, they sit in a
Yes.
group together and they sing. So maybe there's something in that. I something.
This was a treat. The verses that you composed
Yes.
are so beautiful and lend so much to what you created. So what is it that comes first? Does the verse get generated first in your head and on paper and you keep
The
translating
visual
it
comes
through
first.
you?
The visual comes first. It's contemplation on the visual that gives me the word. It gives me clarity, understanding of what I am working on, and I'm very. I like to know what I'm doing. I don't like it to be I don't like to say I don't know. I like to know what I'm doing. I like to know what through my work I'm talking to myself. So I want to know what I'm doing. I like. Sometimes I just look at the work and I just write about it. So I was just been working on it. And I suddenly realized that I'd taken the center, the circular cup, and I got a bit gung-ho with the beads and the sequins, which I haven't used in this work yet. And I suddenly realized that I created a mandala.
Right.
And so then I went on the net, I did all this search, what does a mandala mean? A mandala is supposedly something you use for reflection meditation. And for the last 6 to 7 years that I've been working on this chai series, that's what I have been doing. I have been reflecting on the dark, those marks that create a sense of inhibition in your mind, shame, or whatever you want to call it. So I guess what you are getting from that is that sense of reflection, is that self-exploration, examination, and it is going inward. So that's that's how to drawn into the center, perhaps. It's something new for me too. I'm also looking at it.
Thanks for coming, everybody.